Isabella, I want to thank you for joining me today. Your story is more than personal, it's archetypal. It reminds us that the most dangerous cults aren't always fringe, they're often the ones we're born into. You cannot see the cage until you know there is one. You've said this and it lingers. What if the cage isn't just a compound in California, but a world that teaches obedience as safety, numbness as peace, and consumption as freedom? What if your personal escape from a messianic cult is also a mirror for how entire populations can be gaslit, disassociated, and spiritually hijacked? I'm fascinated with your human experience. For those listening, Isabella's books, Putting on the Armor of God and New Human of New Earth, as well as her website, feelingbetter naturally.love, are all given and linked below. So this is the Mental Breakthrough, episode 79. My guest is Isabella Young. Let's start there.
Thank you, CD. That was a very succinct uh, explanation of my journey, really, um, of escaping from a small cult and realizing that there's a much bigger picture that a lot of people cannot see, and therefore, perpetuate their own enslavement.
Mhm.
So I have been speaking out about cults, different forms of cults. And in fact, right at the moment, I'm originally from Australia, and the Victorian government is actually doing a parliamentary inquiry into cults. And there's so much more exposure of cults and coercive control. It's globally that these types of mind control programs are being revealed, which is really good for my heart. So it's timely. This issue is really, it's important because, like
Yes.
you said, and just wrote this, that if you can't see the cage, then you can't escape from, you can't escape unless you know. And that's exactly my experience of being in the cult, because the cult that I was in, I didn't realize it was a cult. I thought I was in a ashram with my guru, because I did, I was devoted to my spiritual path and my growth, and I part of me did want a guru, so I thought that's what I'd found. But in fact, that's was not the case at all. I ended up with a very dangerous and delusional individual who's still operating, and hopefully, with this parliamentary inquiry, he'll at least be shut down in Australia.
Yeah. That's so he's operating out of California, right?
Yeah, he's still operating over. I've actually got a series on my YouTube channel called Feeling Better Naturally, and it's called The Cult in the Cul-de-sac, a true crime, because he's still in the same house, on the same street, running the same con on the same people. He's been able to keep his operation like under the wire type of thing, like
Mhm.
not to raise too much public awareness, even though he says he's the Messiah and the second coming, and he's here to, as the world teacher, to save humanity. He keeps his operation fairly small, and that allows him to carry on with the grift.
And
And
uh,
yeah,
so he was able to contact you in Australia, or you came to America first and ended up coming across him, or he's got, sounds like he has networks to help recruit, but at the same time is low key.
I actually met him in New Zealand.
Okay.
He was producing a Millennium event, so back in 2000, and then he invited me to come to his cult slash ashram in Southern California, and I went. I went from Australia to there, to the States, and uh, we ended up getting married, had a child together, and that really like sealed the
Yeah.
trap for me, because not only was I trapped like spiritually, believing that he was the one to help me fulfill my dharma and
Mhm.
my sole purpose here on earth, but I was also like trapped with a child.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know from, I mean, I want to get into just from just that whole mind fuckery, as I think you've called it, to
Yeah.
to to get you entrapped. Obviously, that's a key point. I mean, I also, when I think of cults, I think of this polygamous leader. Is he were you the only one that was married to him? Was it a legal marriage? Is he operating? How is that working out? Or
Well, we were legally married. Well, first we had like a spiritual wedding at Sedona at the Grand Stellium or some bullshit, and then we actually had a legal wedding with a celebrant. So that actually allowed me to apply for citizenship, which has been the best thing that came out of that situation because now I
okay,
can live in Hawaii. So we did have a legal marriage. We had sex one time to consummate the marriage, and I got pregnant from that. And then he never touched me again in any like intimate way after that. And he used just a like a slew of excuses from me being too needy or too much like a man or not deserving of his touch. I'd been too rude or too disrespectful. So he'd like send me out of the room to my daughter's room. There was all this like twisted shit around it. And I actually just wrote this story the other day. I remember it was, we'd been on a holiday to Mexico and apparently I'd been really disrespectful, and so he had to go out and have sex with a male prostitute in order to like make for restitution for my transgressions against him. There's so much mindfuckery around this whole thing. And it wasn't until like long after I left the cult that I realized while I was in a celibate marriage, he certainly wasn't. He was grooming the boys in the cult, and he was having all these clandestine sexual encounters with the men in the cult, in addition, because he's got a sex addiction. So in addition to, hookups at the gym or Palm Springs or whatever else. So he's driven by his sex addiction. And I, I didn't realize until afterwards that's really what was going on behind closed doors
and this
and
doesn't.
late at night.
Yeah, that sounds. I mean, male prostitute in Mexico. Obviously, I don't want to associate being gay with a pedophile, but those can you can be both, just like you could be heterosexual pedophile. I mean, I mean that sounds, but it doesn't even sound. I mean, it sounds like he's homosexual too. I mean, is that your?
Oh,
He wasn't grooming women or little girls or anything. So
no. Well, when I first met him, he'd written his autobiography, which is called Dawn of Enlightenment, and it's his story of how he lived with his husband and met like Yogananda visited him and gave him his name, and he's met extraterrestrials and all this other stuff. And when I asked him about being gay, he said he'd healed all his issues and left it at that. And so I wrongly assumed that that meant that he was no longer going to be living as a gay man, but in fact he was. So yes, you can be gay and you can also be a pedophile, and that's what he is.
yeah, I mean it's interesting. You only had sex one time and conceived. I mean, I've
I
got one
know.
one son with
Oh,
my wife, and we want more children. And I thought I was doing everything. I mean, did he use some sort of timing mechanism? I mean, was he in tune with something there, or whether using
I
some
don't know.
device, or that is kind of scary. Yeah,
I don't know. That's creepy to even think about.
yeah, yeah. That
Yeah, and I left my daughter at times with him, and I didn't feel concerned about that because I knew that he's not into little girls or women. He's not, and that was the reason why he didn't have ever touched me again. He just
yeah,
never admitted it.
yeah. He wasn't attracted. He just wanted a
No,
baby. Yeah,
yeah, and I heard it later. It was explained to me that I was a beard. BEARD. That means so I'm presented as the wife and he's the husband, and we've got a child and we've got this family. So he's presenting to the world
yeah,
a picture of normalcy. And also he used to go on about how we were the divine family. We were going to be the blueprint for the new humanity and all this garbage or whatever. So I was just like a placeholder for him
yeah,
to have at the front of looking normal, because he actually, a lot of scandal had followed him from uh from his past before me, where people had confronted him about his sexual abuse of men in the cult. So he was trying to, cover his bases, I suppose.
yeah. And are there drugs involved, alcohol or drugs or something, or is this 100% just
No,
mind?
no, he was. The cult wasn't alcohol free, but or drug free, but we weren't like taking LSD together and having
Yeah,
wild, I've heard about plenty of cults get into that, but no, we were pretty straight, really. I
yeah,
mean, you'd have a glass of wine and all that. I actually
sure.
didn't really drink through the cult
Hmm.
years, but it wasn't banned, and but it wasn't encouraged, and we didn't take any other kinds of drugs. Although apparently, I just went onto his website last night, and he's talking about his DMT experiences and all this shit. So, he's now being the thing about him, what he says about himself. And how he gets away with all the crimes that he commits. He says he's the avatar that breaks all the rules. So he hasn't come here to be like the holy man that follows along what everyone else should do. He's outside the box. So that means he
Yeah,
can do whatever he wants and get away with it.
yeah. How
So
convenient.
ridiculous now.
Yeah,
It's actually kind of, feels almost embarrassing to be talking about something that I was in so heavily involved in for all those years. But you know, it, I didn't I didn't join a cult.
mhm.
I joined, what I thought was a spiritual group, and I was so wounded and vulnerable at the time. I was pretty fucked up in the head myself, obviously, to get into a cult and to stay in there.
Yeah.
So,
No, I respect that. I admire that. I mean, for you to show your vulnerability here, and obviously, yeah. I mean that you could be mocked for being weak and all of these, uh, you know, traits that somebody might say, "Oh, I wouldn't fall for this or that," but obviously,
oh,
um,
I
you
get
know,
that a lot. I get
yeah,
people say, "I've never joined a cult," and you think, "Well, were you in a church? Did you vote?"
hmm, yeah, 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 exactly that.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I kind of want to get into the psychology of this. I know the common phrase, the sunk cost fallacy, where your identity, your spiritual devotion to something in this case, but it can be from buying a house that has like black mold in the basement or something, and you've already bought it and you convince yourself that okay, it's not a problem. And the more you invest into it, the more you lose, but somehow that that cost kind of you have to justify it. So you get deeper.
That's
Obviously having a
exactly why
child. Yeah.
that's why a lot of the people who are still in the cult haven't left, because they've been there for like close to 20 years now. So they've
Yeah.
invested all their time, all their money, all their energy into this cult and cult leader. So, to actually get to the point to say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't right. It means admitting to, a huge mistake, a huge like wrong worldview. And that's very challenging for anyone, right? Because even people who don't then begin to see that on the world stage we're being manipulated and played with here, and to say, oh
Mhm.
god, well, I've believed in these systems for all these years, I've trusted them,
Yeah.
and actually then not what I thought that they were. So that's really what keeps a lot of people in the cult now, as well
Absolutely.
as this other, like, this depth of the mind fuckery that goes on with him. So he's got an inner circle of a few, like a 5 or 6 people who know what he's like. They know what he's up to. They're setting up his room
Hmm.
into an orgy room for him. They're helping him procure, the Tinder dates and whatever. And he's told them that they're the most spiritually evolved people on earth, basically. And they're able to reconcile the differences between what he says he is, or who he says he is, and who he actually is. So,
Yeah.
that's some serious mindfuckery going on there, because that actually then appeals to their egos. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah, pretty messed up.
I mean, it seems like cults all follow a strangely similar blueprint: love bombing, isolation, control, the slow erosion of self, and sometimes it feels like these leaders. I don't know. Are they? I want to know your thoughts. Are they downloading the same script? Did he learn this from somewhere? Is there an ancient playbook for psychic control, or do you think these patterns emerge independently? They're like hardwired into the human psychology, into our evolution for hunger, the hunger for belonging or meaning or hierarchy, or is this something collective at work? Is he part of a larger scheme that he's taking information from people and I don't know.
That's such an interesting question, because, for instance, my mother had a narcissistic personality disorder, and she ran the family like a cult. She
Hmm.
triangulated me and my brothers. She basically set us up for being estranged
Yeah.
from each other for life. And
Okay.
she did a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But I don't know, was she like downloading that information from I don't know, was it her childhood wounds? Is she demonically possessed? I don't know, but
Yeah.
I definitely have my suspicions that there is, I'm just going to call it demonic activity. There
Yeah.
are negative or negatively like orientated beings or vampiric forces that do inhabit human beings, and therefore they run them. So they have an
Hmm.
insatiable need for power and control and sex and
Hmm.
money. And
Hmm.
so yeah, the playbook, it seems like that the narcissistic um, cult leader playbook is universal, because they do have the same features.
Hmm.
They use the same tactics. And I have come to believe that is what I call, like, there are non-physical influences on their behavior. So narcissistic personality disorder or cult leader tendencies is more than just childhood wounds or
Yeah.
psychopathy or
Yeah.
not getting met, mummy issues or whatever.
Hmm.
It is more than that. And I
Yeah.
and I do think it's just I suppose, like a trickle down effect of that same controlling influence that's keeping humanity ignorant and enslaved.
Yeah. And that's why I
It
mean.
plays out through systems
Hmm.
like the government or the banking system or the
Yeah.
judicial system,
Education.
monetary system. It plays down through systems, and it filters down and then plays out through people
Yeah.
who control more people, and then people who just in families or even in relationships. I've seen the same cult
Hmm.
dynamics in a relationship of two, where the one person's the cult leader and one person's the cult member.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
No,
I do actually, thinking about it, just talking about it now, sorry to interrupt, but I actually do feel it's from the same source, from this, and it's all ties back to evil.
yeah. I mean, and then I mean, I look at everything through an evolutionary lens, and to me, evolution is very spiritual. I think just our very existence is the expression of the all, and at the same time, all has everything, and so it could be like hardwired into us on some level, and I don't know if we're hardwired one way or the other. That uh that some people are going to be more susceptible, and some people are more likely to get again. I mean, I'm in line with your. There's obviously some sort of just this evil force that can take over people, but then like how or it's in them all. I guess that's actually a question. Is it in them from the beginning, or does it take them over? But it seems like even if it takes them over, there has to be something in place that allows it, because this it's not normal. It doesn't happen to everybody. So some people are going uh take on this, but there's enough. And I just go back to like a tribal uh thinking of our ancestors, and how this could have played out. And again, and then I have to just ask, is there some sort of evolutionary advantage? And to some degree there is, because we're going to be safer in groups. So I guess just that belonging, that need to be part of something for our survival, and then it can be co-opted into control. um
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
my question is, does he, is there any question to you of if he knows who he is, like who he really is? I mean, does he buy any of his bullshit?
I thought about that a lot. I thought, what does he think when he's, lying there at night, all shagged out and whatever? Is he thinking, oh yeah, I'm here to save humanity. It's only a matter of time before I'm recognized and I take my throne and become, the one that everyone worships. Does he think that, or does he like, oh shit, how am I going to get my next,
Hmm.
fix or my next dollar or whatever? And I think he knows. I
Okay.
think he knows that he's an evil little
Okay.
demon spawn.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's
And
interesting. You can't say with certainty. I mean, it's there's still a possibility that he actually believes it. I mean, like a
yeah.
low percent, but it's not like a certain. Oh, he knows it. Like he. I mean, that's good if he's able to even give any doubt that he might actually believe what he's saying.
Well, he has to repeat the lies to himself. Basically
Yeah.
he's and it
And
must
watch
be
it
hard
himself.
work because every day he's got to wake up and continue on with the lies different lies that he tells different people, different scams that he's running. Like it must be a lot of work
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
a to be living, a living lot of lies,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
chasing addictions and keeping the grift going. I just wanted
seriously.
to say one thing before I forget. We're
Yes.
talking about like how these um demonic forces, that drive people's addictions and uh, that, do they, are we born with those tendencies or
Mhm.
do they like manifest during childhood because of childhood wounds? And I think, yes, they do. But I think that these forces can also come into bodies, physical bodies during crises when
Okay.
we're really like low and depressed and we're really vibrating at a low end. So we match that
Yeah.
negative force or whatever.
Sure.
And also during like times of addiction
Yeah.
and using plant medicines in not in a sacred context. So if we're
Yeah.
using like plant entheogens or whatever, but
Mhm.
not creating a sacred space,
Yeah.
then I've seen it happen. In fact, it just happened to a woman at work. She did a lot of ayahuasca in just a big group without any really, any protection from
Yeah.
people who know how to set up the boundaries,
Yeah.
and she lost her mind.
Yeah.
And also the other way that demons come into the body is through sodomy. So that is an ancient practice of completely like fragmenting the soul and allowing demonic possession. And that's why you see pedophilia. So that's why it's the currency of the controlling forces, because it's the most fundamental way to basically destroy a soul so it can then come under control by dark forces. And yeah, so that's why pedophilia, because it's what's called they call it the house of the the house of the straw man is violated or broken or something. It's basically like the sanctity of your being is most easily and like fundamentally destroyed by sodomy.
That's interesting. Is that does it have to be invited or I mean even if somebody's just brutally raped, it's going to be have the same as if they're seduced?
Yeah, that's why. Is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's something that I've wondered too. Is just anyone who's raped, does it happen?
Yeah, I mean it,
I
it
don't
seems
know.
it seems like yeah, I mean it seems like some sort of seduction would have a stronger impact that if you're able to get somebody to actually have it be invited in but still obviously there's a crush of the soul. I mean rape is going to cause uh something. I mean but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when something's just physically, if you're physically overpowered and against your will, it seems like there'd be a stronger, I don't know, stronger
Possession.
force to protect yourself. But yeah, I mean, that's that's so deep. Um, I
And I've
know.
also, we used to have these, he calls them disciple training sessions, which was just like 8 hour long marathons of him. Well, I call it shredding people, just like going in on people, like why were they so fucked up and going over past issues or bringing up transgressions that had happened. And most people would end up just like a sobbing mess on the floor, screaming into pillows and thrashing around and, in catharsis. And I've seen that people end up with what it just looks like demon possession to me, straight out of, any horror movie, thrashing around on the floor like that,
Yeah,
faces tormented and, sounds and all that. So he definitely works with dark forces and they, yeah, they help him in meeting his needs for
yeah,
sex, money, and power.
yeah. That's I mean, a little bit. I've heard you on other podcasts. We haven't really talked about it. I mean, maybe a little bit about how this started. Let me just recap a little bit and fill in the dots. I think you were married, everything was going well, and that's when and you were actually pregnant. You lost a husband, and so that would have been your son who you had with you, and you went in to this cult at that time, and then you got pregnant with your second child, your a daughter. Is that right?
Yeah, that's so I was with my first husband, and I was 3 months pregnant with our second child when he died suddenly, and that ended my my dream of my life.
Yeah,
My relationship with my best friend, my it ended, or any dreams of family or whatever, and
yeah.
sent me on a downhill spiral that it took years to, and probably still am recovering from that. And that's what set me up in a way for being
Mm.
vulnerable to getting into the cult, because he promised a family and a community and, you know, enlightenment and opportunities to serve other people. So yeah, that the death of my first husband really,
And
you know,
you
set
you
up
don't
the
know how
conditions
that
for,
happened,
yeah,
or I mean,
I do know how that happened.
I mean, it was unexpected, but sudden as a health issue, not an accident.
No, it was a which was unusual because he did 4 tours of Vietnam. Like I found out really not that long ago this, and so he passed in 1994. And I found out a few years ago that he was one of the longest serving soldiers in Australian soldiers in the Vietnam War. Like he was really humble, but he was also a true warrior in the little, you know, on the ground, and also a spiritual warrior too, because he
Hmm.
had his own awakening. And we were starting a really beautiful life together and doing a lot of like um, practical work. We both worked in the outdoors, as I was an outdoor education teacher in climbing and skiing and bushwalking. And so was he. He's far more experienced than me. And he was working with corporate clients, and I was working with young people with mental health diagnoses. And he started up a new company and went off to work with like about 600 executives or workers from the Australian Telecommunications Company. They were coming for a team building day in Melbourne, and he went off to work early that morning. His job was to set up the Flying Fox, just to like an activity to help people move through their fears. And he was found in his car mid morning, and I got a knock on the door from the local policeman and a neighbor to saying that he yeah, he's dead. And it was after what do they call it? In when he autopsy. After the autopsy, they revealed that his cause of death was coronary atherosclerosis. So he survived all those jumps out of helicopters and night missions, and he was on 2-man patrols into enemy territory, and then one day his heart just gave out. So that was basically like the beginning of the of a really hellish nightmare for me. And
Yeah,
it still feels like I can, you know, I could tap into it right now, and it feels like yesterday.
yeah. I mean, man. I mean, I know it, and we haven't got into it. I've heard it. Just your upbringing. It sounds like you were almost in a cult. You were almost groomed for a cult as a child. I mean, you talk about your mother being, kind of atheistic, controlling, authoritarian, that was turning you and uh your siblings against each other in a way that uh you're broken, and you'd be almost
Yeah,
perfect for uh the cult at that point, but you you found somebody and that
yeah,
actually who also, I'm sure, I mean, being in Vietnam, had to have had his own demons that he was dealing with, but strong and spiritually strong, and
yeah,
I mean, that's like that is like your first blessing almost, and then for that to be taken away
yes,
is just so dark. And I mean, it almost feels like this guy from the cult leader that you ended up marrying I mean, he's obviously playing on that. I'm wondering how deep it went. I mean, the fact that he went to, I mean, do you think you were like, at what point do you think he's like, yes, that's who I need? Like he's obviously looking for you. At what point was it literally you specifically, and it just wrong time, wrong place for you, or there was something he planned it. He even could have spotted you. That's why he went to New Zealand. I mean, is that even possible?
I don't know about that. I'm trusting that how it unfolded was just divine timing. I on the soul level,
Yeah.
that's what I chose, and then events unfolded so that we met, and it went on from there. But yeah, I was set up by my childhood to be basically a fluffy little bunny for the wolf in sheep's clothing of the cult leader.
Yeah. I mean, and you could have, I mean, so I mean with your first husband who you right, I'm assuming you married, I'm not, but you were married, right? The first with your
Yes.
son. So I mean but he was, I mean, he didn't have those. I mean, there any sort of element of, because you were set up for that, you were attracted to him, and he, but that was a healthy relationship.
It was the healthiest relationship I've been in. It was also when I met him, I actually had this e- physical reaction that I've never felt with anyone before. And, not that love at first sight thing, but I really did have this energy running through me, and we were powerfully attracted to each other. And the relationship had its dramas because he actually was married and
Mhm.
he eventually got a divorce. And
Okay.
so it wasn't flawless or
Yeah.
faultless, but
Yeah.
that the love that we shared and our connection was the deepest connection I felt with any other one. And I'm so grateful I had that experience and that time with him, because some people don't get to experience that. You
Yeah.
know, I'm just going to call it like it really was true love, and or a soulmate experience. I'm not going
Yeah.
to get,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm extremely grateful that we had the 7 years together that we had.
Okay. Oh, 7 years. Okay. So that, yeah, that's longer than yeah, I didn't know. I knew you were just pregnant for 3 months. So I thought it was uh maybe less. So that's, I mean, that's uh I mean, in the end, that set you up more so just because of that loss. It set you up more so, but all, yeah, I mean, both your childhood and going through that put you in this position to get sucked into this cult, and you
Yeah,
have
I was not mentally healthy.
yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, that's uh I mean, for anybody in that situation, I mean, yeah, I mean, looking back, what was the what, I mean, you were doing the right thing, right? I mean, looking for spirituality, obviously this cult leader is I mean, he's a predator, uh, and he's able to take advantage of you. You were seeking the right path. I mean, did you think it was? I mean, I don't want to say necessary that you fell. I mean, could have you actually joined a good ashram? I mean, was that just bad luck, or was there? Why weren't you able to find spiritual healing? You already had been through so much. I mean, is this a cruel lesson somehow that you had to go through?
I used to feel like that. I used to feel like the victim all the time. But like I said, I feel like my soul orchestrated this
Hmm.
journey because I needed to learn what I needed to learn, and that's how I ended up where I ended up. And could I have found a like a true guru? Well, that's me. So eventually
Yeah,
I have.
yeah, yeah. No, I
And it turned out that I went to India a few times
hmm
to see a guru called Sai Baba, who claims to be the reincarnation of Shirdi Sai Baba, who was the real deal in India. But it turns out that Sai Baba was also a pedophile and a charlatan and
yeah.
like what you call him, a black magician, really, in a way.
Okay.
So yeah, I was seeking to healing, and I was seeking to continue to evolve on as a spiritual being, and and that's what I needed to do to you know to continue to evolve. It's like learn the
Hmm.
hard way.
Yeah. And so how long? What was the duration? How long were you in the cult?
I was in the cult for just about 8 years.
Okay. And so coming into the cult, you were pregnant or you had your son at that point?
No, coming into the cult, I had two children because I was 3 months pregnant when my first husband died. So I gave birth to my daughter, which was just a horrible experience, having to birth alone and name the baby, and there's
Yeah.
no one to share all the firsts with. That was just awful. It was so excruciatingly painful. And then when I left America to go into the cult there, my daughter was 4 and my son was about 7.
Okay. And then, oh, but your daughter
Yes.
is with the cult leader.
No, so I've got two children from my first marriage and one children from
Oh,
the cult leader.
okay,
So we
okay.
all went,
3 children.
yeah. So we're all living in a home on a cul-de-sac in what
Yeah,
looks like a normal family home, and there are our house is the cult headquarters called Prima Dra. He used Sanskrit names to try and seem more spiritual, I suppose, or
yeah,
more holy.
yeah,
So our home's the headquarters, and then there are a number of group homes that are around that where other cult members live, and then they come every day to serve, which is basically work as a slave because no one's getting paid other than the cult leader and maybe his directors in Australia and all that, but everyone else is working for free. And in fact, it's been presented as a great honor that you could come to Guruji's house and organize his CDs for the 7th time this week, or cook his food or wash his clothes. That it's a great blessing, and you're the
yeah,
one that's getting blessed by serving
yeah.
him.
So
And so, sorry.
no, no, go ahead.
So that the daily routine would be people coming in the morning and then carrying out household chores, and then there's also a lot of ashram activities to orchestrate, like house meetings, and whether it's someone's birthday or there's a Guru Purnima, or usually some events to organize, and then at night would be meetings, partner meetings, and lots of meetings. It's typical cult tactics, and that's monopolize people's time so that no one's got any time to think clearly or learn or study outside of what's being presented in the cult. And also, so you're just bloody tired, so the resistance is down because you're like, you got up at 4 o'clock to meditate, then you're up late at night, you know going through some issues with housemates, or
Hmm.
all that sort of stuff. And then the weekends is everybody had to come to our house on Saturday mornings, like from 9 till 12 or later, and clean the house from basically like using Q-tips on baseboards to, the rest of the house. That was every Saturday, and that included the kids. And if the jobs weren't done, then they were done until he was satisfied. Meanwhile, he never lifted a finger to help in any way like that, of
Yeah.
course. And he had his chair in the living room with his portrait above the chair, and then a cushion so he could put his feet on it, and people would lay flowers at his feet, and there were flowers around the house. And that was set up for, we'd have the Saturday was the house cleaning, and then Sunday was disciple training, which I said was like all day Sunday, and the children had to come to that too, which was I have to admit that the child abuse just happened on a daily basis. The children were either abused verbally, or physically, or emotionally, and then, like, when the disciple training, when they had to sit there and listen to people screaming and crying, that was extremely abusive
Yeah.
and disturbing for them too. And there were times when the neighbors called the cops, and the cops would come to make sure no one was dead
Hmm.
after the screaming. So and they were also required to do the same assignments that other cult members to do. So here's an example. My daughter was when I was pregnant, he told me and everyone else that I was pregnant with Lord Ganesha, who's the
Yeah.
elephant-headed Hindu
Hmm.
deity, who's also known as the remover of obstacles.
Hmm.
And so this child was going to be coming into this world to remove the obstacles between me and God and everyone else and God, basically, to help him with his mission. Because he, in addition to claiming to be the Maitreya and the second coming of Christ and the Kalki avatar and the Maitreya, he was also Lord Shiva, which made me Shakti. And of course, then we're having this baby Ganesha.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she was going. when she was born, he gave her the name Ganesha and had her venerated really by everyone. She was put on chairs and same thing, worship at her feet. And it was so uncomfortable and so inappropriate. And the other children were, they also, her brothers and sisters were also expected to do that. So it's just like total mind fuckery.
Yeah.
And it's an example of one of the many psyops that he
Mhm.
played out on people, which the psyop is a psychological operation that's basically designed to um, mess with everyone's understanding of reality.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like gaslighting, except it's,
Mhm.
a
Expanded
longer,
scale. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he regularly did he was a master at gaslighting, and also he ran these psyops on us too. And that Lord Ganesha one was one of them, until I finally put a stop to it. I said, this cannot happen anymore. This is not right. And it was certainly extremely damaging for her and has caused lasting mental health problems. So, he did this was just the sort of things he did with some of the things he just did with me, and just for that amount of time. So I don't know what else it's been, what's it, nearly 17 years now since I've left. So I don't know what sort of tricks he's up to fuck with people, what he's telling them about them or themselves. But it was an all day, everyday process of being fucked with mentally,
Yeah.
so um, it took a long time to realize that that was happening, to even understand it. I still, even years after leaving, I'm still making sense of what how he operates.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, are the other members, are they live there full time, or are they out working, making money, and then coming there to help fund everything?
Yep, they are. He encourages everyone. You have to pay 10%. You have to tithe 10% of your income to even be in his presence. So everyone has a job, pretty much, except for people who are like trust fund babies or got inheritances or got pensions or whatever.
Yeah.
If that, then you can get a source of money from them. But otherwise, you
Sure.
have to get a job because you have to pay
Hmm.
to be in his presence or receive his teachings or his
Hmm.
grace or blessings or whatever. So yeah, they work normal jobs,
Hmm.
and then the rest of their time after work and before work's taken up with cult activities.
Yeah. And then so I mean, I mean, they're working. They're probably mentioning it to other people. Are there other? I mean, it seems like somebody's gonna tell those people, but they just won't listen to it. That if, hey, it sounds like you're in a cult. Like if somebody suggests that to them, they're it's not able. I mean, it seems like it's harder to operate a cult when somebody's able to go in and out because they're able to see. Like it seems almost like it'd be easier to convince somebody, or I thought one of the requirements of a cult is that they're unable to go out into the regular world because they'd be exposed, but it doesn't sound like that's the case at all.
Well, what he does is he tells his cult members that we're not a cult. It's not a cult. In fact, we were the cult that wasn't a cult, or some joke like that,
Yeah.
because that word did get thrown around, but it was basically that's what's happening to everyone else and not us.
Hmm.
There are lots of people who claim to be the second coming, right? That's pretty common. And he would
Hmm.
say that they're all the the false prophets,
Hmm.
but he's the real one. So while he does have people who have part of their lives in the outside world, out of the cult, he's reminds them all the time that he's the real deal and this is the real deal. And also the other important part of that is that he discourages people from having uh, more contact or ongoing contact with people, whether it's family or friends or um, workmates that aren't supportive.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if you've got critical, like I did, so it wasn't really supposed to be in communication with my family because they didn't like him,
They didn't, but they didn't.
mainly because I found out later that when we went on our first visit to see father and his wife that the pretty much the moment I left the room, he hit them up for money. And they never told me that, which really annoyed me. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
oh, no shame.
Yeah. See, Uh, so your family didn't like him, but they didn't try to get you not to. I mean, they weren't giving you. I mean,
Hmm.
they don't like him, but they weren't trying to tell you like, hey, like give you
No,
any. That's interesting.
no, they actually, my parents had an extremely nasty divorce when I was about 12, and they never did anything together except, throw insults. But I heard from my dad's wife that a year, and this is not, 8 years later, I hear that my mother and father went to see a cult expert, and together they went.
Hmm.
And the only thing I remember being told was that they were advised not to do anything until the children were over 18, because then if they kept the children in Australia, then they could get hooked into some like international kidnapping, drama.
Oh
So
wow.
not only did they not do anything, they didn't even say anything to me about being in a cult. I know they didn't like him, but I don't remember anyone actually getting in my face and saying, "Hey, you're in a cult, don't you?" Except uh, when the therapist who I went to see after my son was murdered, he got in my face about it, but no one else really did, which I find that really strange. And it
Yeah.
makes me want to speak up more and tell
Hmm.
people, hey, this is a cult. This is a cult leader. These are cult tactics.
Yeah.
Because some professionals I've heard advise people not to say anything then, because you just drive the person further into the cult and you cut off your
Yeah.
communication with them. But I'd rather risk it.
Yeah.
I've been I actually went through a friendship where I said to him, this friend of mine, I can't continue to be in this relationship with you because you spending time in this cult, and it's not good for you. And he chose the cult. So I tried. I did my best.
Yeah. I mean, do you think hearing it earlier would have cracked the spell, or would the cognitive
No,
dissonance have just pushed you deeper in your? I mean, are you able to reflect
I
on
can
that?
honestly say that I've looked back at some of the letters that I've written, in the early days of the cult, like pleading with my mom to just understand what was going on. I was out of my mind, really.
Yeah.
I was not well. I was not mentally well. I can honestly say that was I was crazy. But in later years, when I really started to suffer, I was, it was excruciating to stay there and be there with him, with his hypocrisy and his double standards and his punishments. And oh, it was just a nightmare. And I feel like after a few years, when things became really unbearable, that there would have been an opening for me to listen to truth.
Yeah.
And what I
Yeah.
reckon is, if say after about 5 or 6 years, my family, who has the financial resources, there's 5 lawyers in the family, they got the time, they could have hired a private investigator to follow him and take
Yeah.
photos of him at the
Yeah.
gym, and with his Tinder hookups. They
Yeah.
could have hired a forensic accountant to go through the finances, so I could see that he was siphoning off money, stealing money from me and everyone else, and buying properties or investing, or
Hmm.
whatever else he's doing
Yeah.
with the money. So I feel like if I'd been presented with documentation and information that's, I can see, and also testimony from other ex-cult members,
Hmm.
because there were people who I have a letter from that was sent anonymously to me saying that we hear you're coming to Australia. Know that your husband is homosexual and he's a fraud and he's not who he says he is, and you should get a lawyer and not go back. And so, there would have been a time, well, I feel like that's true, that where I would have been open to hearing the truth.
Yeah. That's of course. Yeah. I want to get to that. There's a lot of light in your story, but there's still a couple parts that I'm yeah. I still can't get over. So I mean, you're there, and your son dies. That's extremely significant, incredible loss that is unimaginable. And I heard you say you think he did it. So I mean, if I mean, how did he die? And
Allegedly.
yeah,
Allegedly.
I mean, of course, I
I have to
mean,
say that apparently. I
yeah, of course,
have to
no, no,
say that.
yeah, no, of course. I mean, not even. I mean, yeah, how did he die, or what is
Um,
the cause of death, and how was that
so
legally?
my
What was the
son
cause?
was probably the person in the cult who received the most punishments besides the assistant to the cult leader. Because my son saw through him from the start, and he was
How old was he
very
when?
defiant. He was 15
Okay.
at the time that he was allegedly murdered,
Uh-huh.
and he was very, like I said, defiant. He was a teenager, right? So he's going to
Yeah.
be rebelling in his own way, but he had no respect for the cult leader, and he was often punished. And the punishments that he handed out were things like writing lines of affirmation. So, I am obedient. Or for me, it was, I'm the wife of Christ. Had to write them like 33 times, 3 times a day for 99 days. And my son's name's Jasha. He would get thousands of lines, and he would be writing a lot of lines, after school, but, just so he could eventually get out and go with his friends on the weekend and stuff like that. And there was also physical punishments. So they have um, he was made to eat out of a dog bowl in front of adults because he'd been disrespectful. They had to pick up trash, go around the neighborhood or go to the park
Yeah.
or the creek and pick up trash. They had to pick up dog shit. Pretty
Eh,
demeaning type of punishments. They were put in silence a lot. That was one of his punishments he handed out. You're in silence, and then that silence was supposed to be maintained until they were told otherwise. They had to like sleep in the garage with improper bedding. And yes, I watched it all, and I participated in this abuse too by not stepping forward. So I am taking responsibility for that, and that's been very hard.
Okay. And he's enrolled in a regular school, and there
Yeah,
was never he never mentioned that to a teacher that called a police officer, or I mean, how is he
he
able
did.
to?
Apparently he spoke to his friends about it. We found
Yeah.
out later that he
And then
was talking about the abuse that was going on in at home.
and their friends
So
would
they
tell their
knew that.
parents, but it just
Yeah,
wasn't enough. It was able to
no,
brush under the rug. I
he,
mean,
yeah, was able to. He was able to get away with that abuse until one Friday, my son came home from school and he was really upset. So I told him to go to bed and we'll talk about it in the morning. And in the morning, he was gone. And I knew something was wrong because he was that was way out of character. So we
yeah.
called all his friends and we looked for him, in the parks and places they didn't normally go, skate park, whatever, and couldn't find him. So reported him missing that Saturday afternoon. And on Sunday morning, the cult leader sent his assistant to go and look for my son we had an area behind the house where these big power lines ran through. So he went up there to look for him and he found him up there with a knife wound to his neck and the kitchen knife next to his body. And the cult leader immediately blamed me. He told everyone in the cult and he told the cops that my son had found out he was gay and that was unacceptable to him and to me. So he'd taken his life, which is such a heinous lie.
They tried to
Uh,
say he took his own life by slitting his throat, and that was believable.
twice, twice. It took me, I only just read, this is how traumatizing it was, but I only just read the autopsy like last year. And when I read it and read that there were like two, they call it a hesitation wound or something.
Yeah. Okay.
And anyway, the description of his wounds and his body in itself, I could tell that it was not a suicide. He'd been murdered. And then I was able to piece together information when the two young boys in the Australian cult, they were just a bit younger than my son, and they came out when they were in their early 20s to talk about what had happened to them, and they were groomed. They were
Mhm.
told that they were gay from when they were 7, and as soon as they accept being gay, then all their problems will go away. And that was their aunt, who's the cult leader in Melbourne, sent them to like internationally child trafficked them
Hmm.
to the cult in America so he could, abuse them there. And once they told their story, I realized what had been happening for my son, and that he was silenced, literally silenced to stop the truth about the cult leader from coming out because he was being groomed.
Yes, and he was old
And
enough that he, he could. Yeah, so he was about to. Yeah, that's. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
how else to see that situation. I don't understand how a police investigation couldn't uncover that.
he's this, what do you call, like a spin doctor.
Yeah,
He would just took over the whole situation and told everyone how it went down and what was going. We all played our roles,
yeah,
and I think too it was just the easiest solution for the cops. And I wasn't in the right frame of mind to say, hey, wait a minute. I really
yeah,
wasn't in the right frame of mind to say he never would have done that to himself. I just really accepted what it what story
yeah,
was told
yeah,
until much later.
yeah. Wow, that's. I guess that could. The wow, and so I know you mentioned going to the, a therapist, but it sounded like the therapist was actually part of the cult too.
Yes.
But at the same
So
time,
as
they let you or yeah, they questioned or they helped you understand that you were in a cult. So I'm wondering, yeah, how that played out. That wasn't clear exactly. Yeah.
in the cult, I was explaining how we're kept busy. So
Hmm.
we're, because we're so broken and wounded and we need all this healing and whatever. So there was a kinesiologist who came to visited the cult every 2 weeks, and we all had to have a session with him. There was also a therapist
Hmm.
who everyone was supposed to see every 2 weeks or whatever, the same thing. And I never went to him. I honestly was a very disobedient disciple. That was another reason that cult leader said my son had killed himself, is because I wasn't an obedient um, disciple, and
Yeah.
I hadn't given my son the life that he'd signed up for. So he killed himself and took himself out because of me and my disobedience, because I didn't do everything I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Uh, just, I couldn't, it was so wrong. Anyway, I didn't go and see this therapist while he was in the cult, and he had left his role as the cult counselor even probably a couple of years before I went to see him. And when I walked in the door of his office, he said, I knew you'd come and see me one day. And he said, you know, you're in a cult, don't you? And I said, no, I don't know I'm in a cult. I thought I was in an ashram with my guru. And he said, go home and Google cult characteristics. So I did. And sure enough, there's the list of the charismatic leader who's the arbitrator of truth and controls everyone's everything, what you eat, when you wake, when you go to bed, what you do with your time, who you've
Hmm.
been in a relationship with, whether or not you have sex, whether you have children, when
Hmm.
you go on holidays, controls everything.
Yeah.
And then, you went through the tactics. You mentioned some of them before: the love bombing, the hate bombing, that they're used to basically completely discombobulate anyone, because it, always wanting to get back to that point of being appreciated. So, you do things to get back in his good graces, I suppose. And then there's the gaslighting, which is basically crazy making. He would say things that he said he'd said, or that I'd said that never happened, just make up
Hmm.
shit and I'm
Yeah.
supposed to believe it. That was every day, was gaslighting central. And then there's the financial, the thievery and this theft.
Yeah.
And sure enough, through reading through that checklist, I realized, oh shit, I'm in a cult. And then I had to get out, which wasn't easy because we were tied by a child. And
Yeah.
in California, the law says that I can't move more than 2 hours away from him. But I didn't even want to be I didn't even want to be in the US anymore. I didn't want to be anywhere near him.
Yeah.
But legally, he had that hold over me. And also on the like soul level, he said to me that if I left him, I would be turning my back on my soul, on God,
Hmm.
on my life purpose. And my soul would scream throughout eternity when I left my body and realized the mistake that I'd made. And you use that sort of like, you take yourself wherever you go. If you leave me, you're
Yeah.
just going to have to face your own, the same issues. And I understood that. I knew I had issues. I knew I had wounds.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my best understanding of how he actually let me leave, because I left for Hawaii, because he didn't want blood on his hands, any more blood on his hands. And I was going to take myself out. I did not want to live. It was just hell. And I couldn't see a way out. Like I said, I couldn't move where I wanted to go. And I felt trapped, and I felt the only way out was to exit this form. But I'm pretty sure that he didn't want any more attention on him. So I'd say he let me go without, you know,
And you took your
um, and
both.
I took our daughter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Uh,
that's when I was able to be free for the first time in nearly 8 years.
so it sounds like the therapist, but the cult therapist helped. I mean, he must realize, but he's part of it. That part still confuses me. Like, why
Well,
did he help you?
he
He realizes.
actually, he saw through him. That's why he left. That's why
Okay.
he stopped being the cult counselor, because he'd actually seen through him years ago.
Oh, so he left. So when did you saw him? He wasn't still part of it visiting.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I see. Oh, but you sought him outside of that in
Yeah,
that
I
time.
did. I sought him out.
Okay. Oh, wow, wow. Um,
Yeah.
okay. Um, man, okay, that's an incredible journey to say the least. And your relationship with your
Yeah, because
daughter is.
the, uh, yeah, it's been a long journey. It's been like 17 years since I left, and I'm
Mhm.
still, working on understanding um, what happened.
Yeah,
Pieces of information are still coming in.
yeah. And through the experience, although um yeah, many may just see your experience as like, oh, you're weak to have gone through this or something, but or that you would be susceptible to this. And I think anybody who says that is actually, like you mentioned, they're a part of something. They're actually going through it, maybe at a lesser degree on some level. It's much grander in the scheme of things because it's the entire system, but it's also more subtle. What you've gone through is just it's a smaller version of society on a lot of ways, and it's more intense, but it's also tuned your radar to detect those more subtleties
Exactly. Right.
that we have. And I think that's something you have to offer. um
Yeah, it's been interesting because I know that when people hear my story, they judge me for being weak-minded or,
mhm,
like
mhm.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then the other thing that goes along with that is because I was in a cult, that therefore I'm permanently, for life, somehow a lesser person,
yeah,
because
yeah, but,
weak-minded. So, oh,
uh-huh,
she was in a cult, so let's like write her off for life.
yeah,
I feel people's judgments around that, which is people's judgments, but I know myself
yeah,
that having had that experience, like you said, now I am attuned to cult characteristics. I'm also basically attuned, like he was living as a gay man the entire time we were together. And when I look back, it was so obvious. I just had no gaydar on, but the way he
uh-huh,
groomed, the way he presented himself, dressed himself, talked about the importance of cleaning out your anus, all this sort of stuff. He was clearly out as a gay man behind my back. And so now I'm tuned into that. I'm more tuned into like pedophiles and their, MO,
mhm,
how
mhm.
that, and especially in the way that they get together with single mums. That happened in the cult.
Oh yeah,
There were a number of single mums of boys in the cult, and then they step in as like the father role, but really the only thing they really want is to, be with the young boys.
Yeah,
They're very, very dangerous and devious
yeah,
creatures.
yeah. It is. I think it's so easy to just write that off as not going on because it's just so absurd
Prevalent.
to but it's yeah, it's prevalent is that, but I think it's so easy for myself included to just be like, okay, that's a one off, but it doesn't sound like it is, and it sounds like by by just writing it off as something like, oh, that's not going on, or if it does, it's just this one time thing. But I think fortunately, I would say there has been uh, a global awareness of human trafficking. I mean, all of these things are connected. I mean, the human
Right.
trafficking. You've mentioned it a little bit. That's huge. That's going on, and the just the impressionable mind of the youth. I mean, that's also the most demonic thing, just to be taking advantage. I mean, how couldn't a child accept their condition if they're brought up in such a way? And I mean, you know, due respect to your son who was about to, I mean, that's just the most horrific story to think about, that he rose above all of the adversity to come out against it, and then of course allegedly, but my God, but to to I mean,
You reported well, we used to have these pool parties. One of the house had a pool, and the cult leader was always looking for an opportunity to get naked. He used to garden naked, which was so embarrassing for the children, especially if they had friends home. And he was always making it like everyone else's problem when he was like naked in the garden, or, he was the first one to strip off his clothes. And
mhm.
then everyone, well, the men actually all were invited to join him in the pool naked, and those who didn't get naked were ridiculed and teased, and my son was amongst them. And my son told my mother's husband what had happened, that he was made to get in the spa with the cult leader and a couple of the male cult members. And my mum's husband said to him, "Oh, if it happens again, let us know." Like, so he was really let down by,
Yeah,
well,
that's
my
enough.
family.
How could that,
Yeah.
if it happens again, let us know? Like,
Yeah, that's what he
what
said. If it happens,
what
that he
difference does it
reported
make
it,
at
and
that
that's
point?
what
I
he
mean,
got.
that's wow. Oh my God,
So he did speak up and let
yeah,
people know. Like I said, he also let his friends know, and uh
such a shame, and it's to think. I mean, but there are other. Who knows if this story is gonna reach the person. I mean, there are. This is going on. We know it. I mean, this isn't a one-off. It's not a one-off. I think that's the important thing to take away from this, for anybody that's somebody's listening to this, could have a connection somewhere to somebody. I mean, there's so many signs. It wasn't. This is That's what's so amazing about this story, is that it's not. I'm visualizing a compound out in the desert somewhere where people are kept captive, but this is going on in a community of people who could have uh seen it. I mean, the signs are there. So the
yeah.
signs are there right now as we speak. This is going on, and there are people who are turning a blind eye to it. And I appreciate your everything that you're bringing to light, and we've just skimmed the surface, because there's so much. I mean, there's so much more moving forward. I want to get to the light eventually, of course, but before we get there,
Yeah.
I I like to make the connections. Well, first, I have to admit, I love gardening naked. That's when you said it, but there is
I'm
some. I
sure
mean,
it'd be all right if you did it.
there are. I mean, I live out here. I live here with my wife and son in the kind of the jungles of Thailand, and we live about an hour south of the city. We bought an orchard, and I mean, so much of
Oh,
it.
fabulous.
Yeah, we're kind of uh yeah, living off the land. I mean, doing all the things. Just, I mean, I know you
Oh,
hear
my
a lot.
dream.
It's a wonderful place. Yeah. Yeah, I mean you're welcome to come here. I'm actually planning to have something called the
Oh,
Gathering in 2040. At the same time, every time I hear these things, I mean there are aspects again you're attracted to it. I mean there are aspects that he was definitely able to provide that are what we need. These and it's like I don't want to have I actually just want it. It's mostly hot here, hot, humid. There's mosquito season, rainy season, but there's this perfect window of just absolute perfect weather because we live in the mountains a little more. It's tropical, but it's cool in the winter. Not not. I mean, we're actually more in the valley, but we're elevated enough that we get just beautiful, crisp winters. There's no rain. It's cool. Again, when I say cool, so it's I mean even the coldest nights are just maybe a little chilly, and you want to get a sweater, and the days are actually always warm. Um, and I want to have that. I love the renaturing ourselves, rewilding ourselves. There's some
right.
terms you've used, so it's something that at the same time in the back of my mind I'm always like I worry that some of the things I say might sound cultish because uh I don't want to charge anything for people to come here, but I want to I would want people to take part in it, to add something to it, to um that's why I say it's like I want to build these little guest houses that are just like kind of run of the mill, just basics. And then if somebody wants to add something to it, they can tile the floors, right? I'll just have like cement floors. But every time I'm doing this, I'm thinking like, I'm questioning myself. Oh, what am I like? I want to offer something, but I don't want it to come off as a cult. So I'm and little things like that. Yeah, that I like to. I'm questioning myself. I know I'm not. I don't have any uh
Well, I reckon it's in that questioning of yourself that ensures that you're not setting up a cult or setting yourself up as a cult leader. That's how you can tell the difference between someone who has a narcissistic personality disorder and someone who doesn't. Like if you're, because I've often thought, oh God, maybe I'm the narcissist because I've certainly had that thrown at me a lot. But if I know I'm not, because
yeah.
I can ask, I can self-observe and I can take responsibility for when I fuck up because I have fucked up, and I am really sorry to my children for putting them through that. Whereas if I was narcissistic, I wouldn't be apologizing. I wouldn't take any responsibility. I'd be throwing blame on everyone else, like, oh, it was my parents, they really messed me up, rather than
Mhm.
saying, hey, this is part of my journey. I haven't taken responsibility for it. So it's in that ability to self-observe that saves us from those like egoic driven behaviors,
Mhm.
those demonic behaviors and those like controlling and self-serving behaviors.
Yeah.
That's my best explanation of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
because people with narcissistic personality disorder can't self-observe. They won't, and they have
Yeah.
no ability to have empathy. They can
Yeah.
pretend or appear to have empathy, but
Yeah.
they can't.
Yeah. Yeah. That is.
And they actually can't have, they don't love, they don't, and the main thing is they don't love themselves. It's what I understood about myself, having realized that, oh my God, this cult leader had a narcissistic personality disorder. Like I didn't even know what that meant,
Mhm.
but realizing that that's a self-love deficit disorder. So he's got a bottomless pit of self-hatred, and so he creates a false persona to get his needs met, get approval, get sex, get money, and all that. Whereas I had codependent tendencies, so I'm looking outside myself for approval,
Mhm.
for and the only way to heal that was to establish self-love.
Okay. So you would
And
consider what you had was also a self-love
yeah,
deficiency, but
exactly.
you have the capacity for it. He doesn't have
Yeah.
the capacity for it.
There are very few people with narcissistic personality disorder who can heal, who are redeemable
Yeah.
because of their inability to take responsibility and self-reflect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you can't really sit down and say, oh, how am I going? Was that a good thing I said? Or, perhaps I could do this differently, then, you're not changing or evolving. Really operating at a very low and selfish ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
So it's all right. You're not setting up a cult.
yeah. Yeah. No. No. And people, anytime I mention it, I always, yeah, people always will say something like that as a joke because but I seriously do want to do that, and I love Thailand. I've traveled a lot. Yeah, I've been to India. I love India and Japan. I was always attracted to the East. I didn't know what it was, where I wanted it. I liked India. I did a lot of backpacking in the Himalayas, and then I studied abroad in Japan. I'm attracted to Buddhism and just Eastern thought, Taoism, and I didn't know where I wanted to go. I was also into martial arts, and I had come across Thailand a couple times. I ended up coming here for Muay Thai, which was the the martial art that I wanted to compete in a few times, and then um, I I was like, this is where I want to live. I met my wife soon after we moved here. I moved here. She's Thai, and then uh, and then we kind of started. We were both on our own journey, some darkness, both of us, but we found light in each other and wanted to grow together. And we traveled all around Thailand. And this is not where she's from or where I'm from. So we kind of found it as our own little home. And we saved up to buy land. So we were eventually, yeah, everything has come together. Everything is just so amazing. My life is, it's exactly what I want, except for the one thing that it's missing is intellectual conversations with native English speakers, which I don't have, obviously, living out in the jungles, mountainous orchard in Thailand. We bought an orchard and we're converting it kind of back into what its natural state might have been. And so that's one of the things I appreciate that here. And that's why this podcast is so important to me to have these conversations. And I'm meeting so many interesting people. Um, and then again, yeah, the only thing that would make this better, of course, would be to not be talking through this screen and to actually have you in person having these conversations about life. Um, and and so and hopefully what these podcasts do is anybody that's listening to this is interested enough that wants to be a part of it. I think a lot of people there's a lot of people that have podcasts, a lot of people that go on podcasts. I'm actually fortunate because I noticed that as many podcasts as there are I'm still getting people who want to be on my podcast and just have these conversations. You have a story you want to share. Of course, you have books and a website that I hope if people are interested that they get in contact with you. And at the same time, I hope they get in contact with me if they hear this little idea of like an area where essentially Thailand is it's so set up for tourism is such a huge industry here. I think they're the largest rice producer, although it switches around between Vietnam and Myanmar sometimes. That's obviously a huge their export of rice brings in to their economy, and then there's agriculture and just tourism. It is a hot spot for tourism, and so it's so you can literally just show up at the airport and with a little money, but not much, and you can just get around and find out exactly what you want to do. These elephant sanctuaries, trekking in the jungle, and it's all set up. A lot of people are just would be nervous to they think it's going to cost a lot of money or that they have to set it up in advance. And actually, if you try to set it up in advance, I would say you're gonna worse off. You're gonna get scammed and cut. You're better off just showing up. So kind of what I want to do is just have a place that somebody gives them the confidence. Okay, I've got somewhere to go. Once they come here and they see the way it is, that they could take off, stay with me a couple days, have some conversations. Just so I can have some human contact. With have these conversations. And then kind of help set it up what sort of activities they want to do because there's so much to do here. Um,
It's so beautiful. I'm very happy for you. That's a lovely vision to be anchoring and making happen. That I had that dream. That was what Barry and I were doing was
oh yeah,
basically becoming as self-sufficient as possible with a fruit
yeah.
orchard and a veggie garden. And even now, although it's a pie in the sky dream, but I would love to have land where I could live in community with like-minded people and everyone's got like tiny homes, but there's a shared
Hmm.
kitchen area and
Oh
meeting
yeah,
space and shared orchard and veg. I'd love that. That's how I
yeah,
want to live. So I'm holding that vision and it's good to know that other people
yeah,
are making it happen. So
yeah,
thank you.
yeah. No,
Because that
that's
I was just going to say I just sort of like jumping way off into the
mhm.
esoterica is that my understanding that we are going through this evolutionary, like major evolutionary shift
Hmm.
We're coming out of darkness
Hmm.
and control into basically what's going to be a new earth, and it's
Yes.
already here.
Yeah.
It's already here by every time any one of us is just a kind human being, a helpful human being, like that is the new earth. And also through places and communities that are operating, you know, from love
Yeah.
rather than from fear and control. So we're all make it's happening.
Yeah.
It's
No,
actually happening.
it, it definitely is. And I mean, to bring us back to what you're saying, you don't know you're in a prison unless, it, well, how do you say? I mean, I mean, until you see the bars,
Cage.
in the cage. Yeah. I mean, so I think that is part of coming to, is accepting that there are these restraints on us. If we're in denial about it, then we're gonna stay in it, and we're bringing to light so much of it, and it's hard, it's difficult for us. You've experienced it firsthand, on a smaller level, but again, more direct, maybe more obvious to some degree, but that has given you a unique perspective, that's just a microcosm of the whole system, but it doesn't have to be
Exactly.
that way.
Mm.
And maybe you can, uh I want to, again, definitely, in this, on the light, the new earth. I want to go into that, but I think there are still some people that we need to sell them on that we do need to move forward. We're not going to move forward unless we just, that's really all we have to do, is ultimately, if we can expose the system. I mean, I think that's the final step, and we're on that step. But
Yeah,
it's not going to come
we are.
easily. So there are still some hurdles. It's not just, I don't think we're just in the clear, but we're definitely.
No, we're not in the clear. We're not going to just, I mean, we could. I'm not, I believe in miracles
Mhm.
and, divine intervention. And so it could be just a flash or whatever. And,
The whole house of
all
cards falls
the
down, but.
house of cards falls down, evil is vanquished, and we're living in
but
love and light. That could
mhm.
happen. But, that's, it's at the moment, what I'm seeing is the rampant exposure
Mhm.
of all the systems that are keeping people captive.
Yeah.
More people are seeing the corruption
Hmm.
in all areas. Like I'm a true crime uh, junkie,
Hmm.
and I've been following a couple of cases in the US that are exposing police corruption, not just police corruption. Like we've got DA corruption, government, like in Massachusetts, and now there's another one in Connecticut, that basically being able to see, as you said, the whole house of cards is coming down. There's
Yes.
also the corruption in Hollywood that's being
Yeah.
exposed.
Yeah.
The voting fraud, the banking system,
Yeah.
the whole, all of it,
Yeah.
all of it,
Yeah.
all the religion, all the pedophile priests, or
Uh-huh. Yeah. And,
it's happening.
yeah, and I guess the awareness has to come from the inside. I mean, we have to get out of the idea that everybody in parliament is they're part of it, but they might be unwillingly part of it, just as you were too, helping facilitate the abuse on your own children, as well as others, and other people. They are in that same position, and it's interesting you did say that. I mean, that parliament are looking into these cult rings, and ultimately, yeah, I would say light is much greater than darkness by astronomical amounts, but darkness is a force that is extremely strong. I think what that they have to their advantage, or have had to their advantage, is that they're so many steps ahead. And I feel what we have done
Yeah,
at this time as kind of put them on the back foot. They're frantic, they're reacting, and they're gonna slip up. So to some degree, yeah, I don't think it's gonna be so easy. It's just it crumbles. They're gonna put up a fight, and they actually
yeah,
are putting up a fight, trying to
yeah.
cover their tracks. And when they were 3 or 4 or 5 steps ahead, it was much easier to just sweep people under the rug here and there. And there's definitely, and I mean, we have to perceive time as not how we experience it, as this linear, um, you know, I mean, 100
Construct.
years. isn't actually anything. I mean, when we think about reading textbooks, sometimes 100 years is in a paragraph and you move on. So we may be as as uh as much as here in the experience. I mean, just think of the people who lived through the dark ages, so-called dark ages for a couple 100 years. I mean, they were probably experiencing tremendous uh understanding things on a level that we can't. So to some degree, when people look back at this time, it may be a blip, and but we're living through it, and we're part of the ones. I mean, we are bringing the system, we are exposing the system, and it might not happen in our lifetimes, because our lifetimes are not that long in the scheme of things, but it's essential, and maybe it
And it
will,
will
maybe it will.
happen.
Yeah, yeah, and
It
and
will. It
yeah.
will happen. Darkness will be vanquished. The frequency of the light is continuing to increase,
Hmm.
and that will expose and expunge the evil and the darkness. It just will, and it cannot be stopped. And it's up to us as to how it proceeds.
Hmm.
We're the creators, and together we are co-creating our future. So if we continue to comply with the old system of control, then that's going to perpetuate it. And if we step outside that and create something new like you're doing, then that system's going to it's collapsing.
Yeah, and then that brings us to, like, it, I mean, are these cycles though? Is it just I mean, will the darkness come back? I mean, are these continuous cycles? Have we
Yeah.
continuously lived this way? Is this are we
Well,
just
the
in a cycle,
the
or can it be permanently vanquished?
the Hindu tradition talks about the yugas, right?
Hmm.
They understand cycles of time way better than most people. Apparently, their information came from, you know, off-planet sources that understand the history of the cosmos.
Hmm.
And they talk about the yugas, which are cycles of consciousness, basically. So we just came out of the Kali Yuga, which was a descending cycle of consciousness. And there's a guy, his name's, I think it's Babu Mishra. He just wrote a book on the yugas that was published in March, I think. And he talks about an actual date in March that the descending consciousness became ascending consciousness.
Okay,
So we
the little
moved from
reflection point.
that,
Yeah,
yeah. And but so it seems
yeah,
like there's just like I suppose there's cycles of time, there's also cycles of consciousness. So I don't,
yeah,
I can't understand, much before and much after where I am
yeah,
sort of now in time.
yeah, yeah. No, there's definitely this frequency. I mean, and just talking about it, yeah, bringing light to it is the light, and that's definitely, I'm glad this we've gotten to this uh part. Going through your stories, just, I mean, it's dark, but to not shine light on it, I mean, it's real. It's something we had to just accept as reality. But yeah, I want to move into these things to help you. Like, yeah, one of the things I do, yeah, just I mean, what, like, the being bare feet on the ground. I know something you've talked about and stuff. That's something. I mean, my son always walks, right? He doesn't, you know, he gets his inoculations from the earth, by walking around and, playing in the mud. And I mean, that's nature. To me, evolution is so spiritual, and I guess, um, evolutionarily speaking, our nervous systems were not built for abstract authority or synthetic rhythms. They evolved under the sky, in the forest, barefoot in the soil, and and I know you return to that primal contact. That's a huge part of it. The sunlight, the earth, the water. Um, what what began shifting in your body's patterning? Help it, just describe that for people, to understand how because I think people know deep down inside. I don't think it's going to take that much convincing. I mean, it doesn't sound. It might have sounded hippie, woo woo, whatever in the past. I don't. When I say things like this, when I speak like this, I'm not. I don't feel a strong resistance. I feel a little resistance sometimes, but it's like, I don't feel it takes much to just crack it open, and go ahead, try it for yourself, and let you know, I think it's enough. Before, if somebody's going to be so resistant, they're not even willing to, okay, well, I'll see what it's like. And then, especially somebody who's in completely, I mean, I've got electricity and 5G's throwing whatever's going on out here. I'm right now, of course, a light on my face, looking at the computer screen. I'm not completely it's not like I'm always in nature, but I'm able to have that and then boom, go out into nature. And I instantly, that's kind of why I want to have this gathering that I have, is just to get people to 1 or 2 days. That's all they need, is just come here, talk to me for a couple days. You're going to just see what it's like, and then take that back, go back and try it. So, like I said, I don't think it takes much to convince people anymore. But try, or for those that are hesitant, to tell us how you see it, how reconnecting to nature has changed you, and what things they can do to instantly see that, oh shit, she's not full of shit. She knows what she's talking about.
Well, I'm blessed to live in Kauai, which is an absolutely gorgeous paradise, not a metaphor. It's a
Yeah.
magical place, and I've been able to live in really sweet spots
Mhm.
by a river next to the ocean. Now I'm living right next to the ocean at the foot of a mountain, which is
Oh wow.
the apparently the birth portal for the planet, some
Wow.
trip. And so I spend a lot of time in the water or hiking or gardening or whatever. And when I first came here, I that was what helped calm my nervous system, because I was just like, I was fried from all those years of
Yeah.
being abused, and then going through the trauma of my son's murder, and and so being here really helped calm my nervous system, and then I could sort of settle down and begin to like make sense of what had happened, and learn more about uh, like I said, cult programming and narcissistic personality disorder. And I just kept on like deepening my connection with nature. And I would get inspiration to learn about grounding. So I watched this, which I highly recommend, a documentary called Earthing, which
Mhm.
was funded by this guy called Clint Ober. He made a lot of money in television back in like the 70s or something, and then invested it into actually doing scientific research on the benefits of earthing.
Mhm.
And it's scientifically proven to do a whole lot of beneficial things, like balance us electromagnetically, give us negative
Mhm.
ions, just um, it's fundamental. Like we
Yeah.
really can't be optimally physically or mentally healthy without a direct connection to earth. We need the earth energy. Earth is a giant battery that provides life force energy, and we've been intentionally disconnected from earth and earth energy to disempower us by wearing rubber-soled shoes or living in cities, never
Mhm.
going outside, relating to life through screens. So I actually was sounds like a hang on, my cat's just coming. I was lying under a coconut tree, and I was getting all this information on earthing, and I thought, oh, I'll be writing a book about earthing. So I started writing that, and then it just more and more information came. I had been sun gazing through this, got that same inspiration, learn about sun gazing and start that. And when I first started, I was only able to look at the sun for really a few seconds as it came up above the horizon. So, the rising sun that's the most powerful information we can receive while we're embodied, is light from the sun, in my
Yeah.
experience.
I mean,
And when
yeah.
that light comes in through our eyes, it goes into the brain, and I don't know exactly what it does. It stimulates the pineal gland or the pituitary gland and
Sure.
ignites DNA and
Yeah.
fires junk DNA, whatever it does, but it's life optimizing information.
Yeah.
And so then I started writing about sun gazing, and then just more and more information kept on coming to me about a lot of different medicines in nature, and they, like you said, some people dismiss it as like hippie bullshit, but I think that's part of the programming that keeps people
Yeah.
from doing these very simple basic practices. Like they dismiss them, oh, that's too easy, or that's bullshit, or whatever, or you're like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to work with crystals because that's all like woo woo. Well, no, it's not. These are fundamental practices and tools that are available to us to optimize um, our well-being and our lives that are being forgotten and ignored. And even I listened to some of the what call them natural medicine doctors,
Uh,
that
yeah,
have big platforms, and they might mention, I mean, they obviously they mention, sunlight and all that, and they might mention grounding, but it really needs to be like harped on, because so many people have never looked at the sun, or are always covered up when they go out in the sun with sunscreen or a hat or sunglasses, and so they're blocking this life force
yeah,
energy. And on top of that, they're doing these whatever the fucking with the sunlight, so it's not pure sunlight.
yeah. That's
So right, that's sun dimming
yeah,
or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
So it's been through my connection to nature that's helped me heal. That's the bottom line. And then
yeah,
learning about eating living foods and drinking
yeah,
spring water, and all really like basic practices
yeah.
of how our ancestors lived.
Exactly, and that's the point. That's the main point to I think reach people, the spiritual people who
Mm.
are able to tap into the idea that are we're frequencies and energy, and they're going to understand it from the spiritual perspective. But for somebody that wants to hear the science, it's like even if you can't all the neuron firings and what gland is activated and stuff, it's like go do the research, look into it, and figure it out. But just ask the basic question of what did our ancestors do? Like how
Exactly.
if you unless they want to disagree with evolution, that we evolved alongside our environment, and that obviously whatever is available is not it's not. And the funny thing is it even you could be a creationist, then okay, then the same system, if everything was created for us, it's there. But at the same time, from an evolutionary perspective, everything we evolved alongside with it. So it's like no matter which route you want to go, it's obvious that the earth and yeah, the sun. I mean, the sun is obviously the source of all our energy on life, and the plants get it, and many animals only eat the plants, um and and every I mean that's one of the things I love about uh our land is I just go every day. I can just go out and eat leaves. There's many edible leaves. There's many tropical fruits that we can eat, and it just yeah it feels so good. And I know we still have to buy some things from the stores, but we know that our food is just anytime you mass produce it, it's there's obviously chemical fertilizers and the things are spraying and on it that will detract from the wholeness that we can get
Benefits,
in
yeah.
nature. And just yeah, just eating the leaves. I mean, just fine. There's apps now on our phones. That's why I do like to connect, recognizing that okay, technology is not all evil. There are this conversation that we're able to have, even though I would much rather have it in person. It is something we are able to use these. And like I said, this phone app that there's edible leaves. I mean, that I know during the Great Depression, people were eating daffodils or whatever or sunflower or daisies or
Dandelions.
something. What it was, yeah, grass. I mean, literally grass. That's what I mean. It's like there are edible things. It's just every day that
Yeah,
there's several plants that you just chew on something, and because it's been out in the sun, and of course, yeah, you're out in the sun,
right.
and uh,
And that it's that biophotonic energy that we can get through the living greens or
mhm,
spring water that can optimize our being.
yeah,
Have you heard of the Ringing Cedar series?
no,
So it's a series of books written by this guy, Vladimir. I can't remember his last name, some Russian guy. And he went into the taiga in Russia and met a woman called Anastasia, who's
oh, okay, yeah,
basically a
yeah, I do know that, yeah, yeah, yeah,
mentor.
yeah,
So she explains how you can treat seeds, like you can put them in your mouth,
yeah, yeah,
hold it in your mouth in your saliva, and at a certain time, I think it's a time of the moon, when the moon's in a certain time of your
mhm,
chart, and then the plants will grow medicine that's specific for you,
yeah,
whether that's an apple tree or a kale plant or whatever. And so my knowing is that I can communicate with the plants and that I'm growing,
mhm,
and they'll do that.
yeah, no,
So even if it's just a little, anyone can do that. You can grow sprout, anyone. can sprout sprouts
Hmm.
in a, you just got to have a jar and like a slotted lid or whatever, and then you can grow living food, that specific medicine with the highest biophotonic energy, and you can just eat a couple of, like a handful of sprouts a day, and that's so beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, I had that. I actually read an expert from that book. I didn't realize it was that. My friend actually he talked about New Earth. He has a book, Poetry for New Earth, and he sent me that an excerpt from that about putting the seeds in your mouth and walking around. I remember Anastasia as a character, and I've done that same thing. I plant. I love planting. I mean, we've lived here 7 years now, and um I planted everything from seeds. There were a couple
Oh,
plants that I got seed. I had to get seedlings, which were grafted, and I don't feel those are as good. But at the same time, I believe if they're in the earth long enough, they're gonna come back to source. I plant as many seeds as possible. And luckily, I mean, these tropical weather. I mean, like mangoes grow. Like I have too many mango trees now. Like every time I eat a mango, it's like
there's
the
no such
seed is
thing.
precious, and it's like what do I want to do? And I just started throwing them around, and they all grew. And I was like, oh man, I got too many
uh,
mangoes. I've literally had to take some mango trees out because it's like, okay,
I'd
I
like
don't want
that
to.
problem.
Yeah, it's yeah, yeah. So many. We had so many mangoes this year, and yeah, I have friends in the States. It's like, oh, you could sell them. I'm like, who's gonna buy them? Because we've got a crazy. I've got my neighbor. He's got all these mango trees. They're just falling off. Nobody's buying them. Nobody's buying our mangoes because I mean, for most of them, you sell them to a main exporter, and I mean, for me to send them out out of the
Right.
out of the country, it's not practical financially to even operate a system. But it's like it's a shame. I mean, they're just falling off. I'm eating them. My dogs are eating them. I'm taking
Right.
seeds. I'm using the. I made a lot of mango chutney, which is delicious, and
Oh
that
my
stores
God, that's so funny.
for a
That
while.
we've got mango season at the moment, and there's an absolute glut. And I just made mango chutney last week.
Oh yeah, it's. I'm thinking about what can I do. I mean, I'm at the point now. I'm just using rotting mango as fertilizer, and it's good too. But
Oh
um,
wow.
yeah.
Oh
I mean,
gosh.
it's a track. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, the mangoes. Avocados grow well. I have the trees grow well. I haven't had any avocados yet. I planted them. I've heard they take a long time to produce fruit, and luckily, Thailand has these like I don't know if they're native, near native. I mean, they were growing in the wild. When I first came here, they weren't even popular. I was going up in the Hmong tribes in the mountains were selling them. They didn't even know what they really were. They weren't using them, but they were selling them really cheap, like 5 cents a fruit, and they're not delicious like some of them that you get that are full that they've got really big seeds and just a little bit of
Hmm.
the flesh in it, uh but they're good actually. I mean, they're good. Yeah, they're just not maybe optimized for wholesale, but yeah, I've planted some of them, so I've got several different kinds of avocados. Some are really long and skinny that they're funny, but it's
Hmm.
like if I had enough of them, I could make a lot of guacamole with them. Yeah, it's just they're less the kind of store bought ones that are mostly, I think, in America they're coming out of Chile, but I see them here in Thailand. A lot of them come out of New Zealand, um, and 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 Mexico. I mean, it's crazy in America that they grow in California. There's all these avocado farms, but we're when you go to the store, they're always coming from Chile or Mexico and stuff. It's um, but the ones in California also are yeah, they're smaller. Uh, but the some that can grow. I don't know if they necessarily grow wildly, but they are out there. Somebody planted them somewhere. I heard that there's actually a phenomenon of is this giant sloth that actually fed on the avocado that during the only reason that we have avocados is because the sloth that ate them and the way the seed is and everything they'd eat them digest them and luckily somebody came across them and cultivated them and now they're I don't know. Do avocados go in Hawaii?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do.
yeah,
They do. Well, they're not native, of course, but
yeah. Not native,
there
but
are
yeah.
lots of people, lots of trees. There's some people have orchards,
Hmm.
but yeah, a lot of properties just have the avocado tree and a mango tree. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Everything, pretty much most things grow well here. Not where I am. I'm in the death zone. Plus, I got a black thumb. I'm right on the beach,
yeah.
so it's really difficult to grow any sort of soft leaf
Okay,
plants.
yeah.
But how fun to have grown your own plants from seed. That's fabulous.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, and I've got the time, and I've planted a lot of like large trees. We've got these. I mean, the teak and I don't even know what they are. I mean, chamcha. I just only know the Thai names, but they grow. They'll take hundreds of years to grow big. I might not get to fully enjoy some of them, but some of them grow quickly. Actually, these rain pod trees that are native to the Caribbean. I think actually the house or the tree that Swiss Family Robinson was based in, it was one of these. We do have a lot of I mean, Portuguese were here during. They brought a lot of seeds from Brazil. I mean, papaya, which is a staple in the Thai culinary, papaya salad. They're actually not native to Southeast Asia at all. They were brought over from South America. There are actually a lot of native South American trees and fruits that have been in Thailand for like 400 years. So they or so
Well,
so
that's interesting.
they become near natives or I
Hmm.
mean I mean the best I mean local native in season is ideal, I think, for
Yeah.
a diet. And also
Yes.
a factor would be that your ancestors were native to there too. So that's one area that I'm kind of in this flux. Like my genes aren't necessary. These aren't the diet that my ancestors
Mm.
directly were eating. So I do sometimes source some you know different uh foods from around the world, but ideally that yeah, local in season,
Yeah.
native to the region, but then again,
And
yeah, if it's
fresh as possible,
and
freshly picked.
yeah,
That's
oh yeah,
right.
absolutely, yeah, and yeah, if I can
Because
eat
that
off the
helps.
tree, then
Yeah, right. Because that connects us also when we're eating local food. It connects us. It's part of the grounding too, and
yeah,
connecting us in with the cycles that are here too. I love. If I'm going to eat bananas, I just go and buy them from the fruit stand up in up the road rather than the supermarket
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
because yeah,
yeah, the more recent it's been picked for sure. I mean, it starts
yeah,
losing its life force instantly. I mean, yeah, if you can
yes.
I mean, I literally we have these guavas that grow really well here too, and I will sometimes start eat. I eat it before I don't even pick it. I eat it off the tree, and sometimes just leave.
Oh, I love that.
There's something. Yeah, yeah. I love doing that. Like I feel like I'm able to get just a little more source, and then I mean yeah, now I don't even like it if it's been picked for after a day. It's like if I pick something, I want to eat it within that day, and at the same time, so I leave things on the tree. I mean, we're in an orchard that is designed to make money by selling it, even though it's the money my neighbors make. It doesn't even seem like it's the work of picking the fruit, like let alone all the time it took to grow those fruit, even just to the amount of money they make from picking it, which takes, like they all move in groups and help each other. So like 10 people will all come and pick it all. So, okay, if I were to look at minimum wage for all those people, they don't even make enough money to make it worth picking the fruit. Like in my mind, to them, it is worth it. Um, like it's less the like selling all the fruit they can pick in a day is only would give people like $20 a day, and
Right.
and but to them that $20 a day is a high wage for the day. But the point that there is that so they see all these fruits. I've taken out a lot of these lumii. Their longan is called in English this fruit, but there's actually two versions of it, and it got mistranslated. So I actually call it lumii because it's not the longan fruit, but so we had lots of these trees. So I've taken a lot of them out and planted other trees, but we still do have a lot of those trees. And they weren't producing fruit at first because the most people put fertilizers and pesticides, which is a shame because somehow that got introduced. Once it does, then it's kind of like they get addicted to it. I mean, the trees need it after a while. If you give it fake fertilizers, now it doesn't. It's lost the ability to, and they're weed eating or putting Roundup on the area which would have naturally had these plants decaying and giving the natural nutrients that it needed. But it took about 3 years. For 3 years, our plants didn't, our trees that we left here that were part of the orchard that I didn't take out, they weren't producing fruit, and our neighbors would make fun of us. Oh, you got to spray it, you got to do this. And I said, no, 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 I'm not. First of all, I'm not doing it. If it never produces fruit again, I don't care. I'm not going to give it fake stuff, all these chemicals. And but now they're producing, and now they're producing so much. We only have a few of those trees left, but they have so much fruit, and they're big, they're plump, and our neighbors want to, like, they want to pick them and sell them. I mean, just so they can make a little money. I want to keep them on there as long as possible. And they tell me how, oh, if I leave them on there, the bugs are going to eat them. And it's true. Eventually, I don't get to all of them, but I don't want to pick them all and then keep them and then eat them. Like, I rather just have it available so I can pick them when I eat them. I'm not going to eat all of them. Some of them are going to eventually attract bugs, but it's like, yeah, in my mind, they don't understand it. Unfortunately, they don't see it that way. Yeah.
Well, that's my definition of wealth, when you can
Yeah.
go out and pick your own food off your trees.
And have too much. You have to use mango
Yeah, and have an
fruit as a
abundance. And have
fertilizer.
you? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, it is a it's definitely fortunate. I'm
A great blessing.
yeah, yeah, it, it is. It is. And for you to be in Hawaii, which is obviously a tropical paradise, so you're going from one extreme to the other for it to that you, I guess, to go back to that question about what people can do, I think it's obvious if you are able to walk, you know, barefoot in the sand, go into the ocean, feel the waves, feel the tropical sun. But not everybody has access to that, but they do have access to. There's still nature. Even the people in the biggest
There's
cities
still
probably have an
nature.
opportunity to go
Right.
out into nature. They might
And
not feel. Yeah, yeah.
people can go to parks.
Mhm.
If you touch trees and plants, they're rooted in the earth, so you can
Yeah,
get grounding that way. So that whole tree hugging thing that's been made, fun of,
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
actually an important practice.
yeah,
So, sit with your back to a tree and leave the cell, all the electronic devices behind, and just go into nature and relax and receive. Lie on the ground. Sit on it. Concrete and bricks are conductive. So if you're sitting on your back steps and they're bricks and you've got bare feet, and your feet are on the concrete or whatever, that's grounding as well.
yeah.
Touching and holding crystals is grounding.
Hmm.
Touching pets who've been outdoors is grounding. Touching other people who are grounded is grounding. So there are a lot, and as well as eating root vegetables,
Yeah,
that's a grounding. So any, potatoes, sweet potatoes,
yeah,
uh, beets, whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Eat
yeah,
eat root vegetables. That's grounding too. And so it's really important to have that connection with the earth for as long as possible, as often as possible, and every day really. And don't do I can't go out because it's snowing, because like I said, there are trees and rocks that you can touch. There are also grounding devices that are available, and that earthing.com, it's Clint Over's a website. They have grounding mats that you can have under your or next to on your computer, or there are grounding sheets, or
hmm,
grounding things you can hang off the back of your car to stay connected to the earth energy. So
yeah,
no excuses, really. It's
yeah,
important to get outside every day and get grounded, because you really can't, you won't be able to achieve or heal without earth energy. It's really important. And
yeah.
I've been thinking about this a lot. I think that even through the introduction of these screen technologies from like television, or
Hmm.
mainly television, like from television on, when like video games, and then we got cell phones and
Yeah, yeah.
whatever, all those technologies are intended to disconnect us from nature.
Hmm.
So while, like you said before, there are some advantages from the technologies that we have, because we can talk to each other, we can learn about, stuff, and
Hmm.
that's great, but they're also experience blockers, and they
Yeah,
disconnect us from our natural state. So it's important to be aware of that and to make children aware of that, because remember that I'm part of the last humans who actually grew up without a cell phone. So
hmm,
we spent a lot of time outside, and we just watched television, especially when I grew up, because television didn't even run all day and all night. So it wasn't really, you couldn't really sit in front of the television all day because it wasn't even running.
Yeah.
So we were outside, we were connected to nature, we were following the cycles. Like you come inside when it's dark,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
That was
now,
the.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was when you knew to come inside.
Yeah.
And now the children don't even go outside. They don't even know how to play. They've lost that connection to the earth. So now when they're using those technologies, they don't have any idea outside of screen technologies. They don't have a reference to life like
Yeah.
we do. They're not feeling the wind or listening to the sound of the waves or watching clouds or staring at the night sky unless they're taken and shown, hey,
Hmm.
this is the natural world. This is where we belong. And this is
Yeah.
what strengthens us, empowers us, heals us, teaches us, guides us.
Yeah.
It's not the screen technologies, and it's pretty insidious, really, because they're extremely powerfully addictive. I know
Hmm.
myself. I have to police myself, or I'll just watch the screen all day.
Hmm.
Um, and just need to be really mindful of that because when people say, "Oh, the children are the hope for the future," well, honestly, have you seen them?
Yeah.
It's like in a not a surprise when we see kids riding down the streets on their bikes or carrying their fins and their snorkels while they're going out spearfishing. Even that's becoming like a rare thing to see children out playing. And I know there's a whole like stranger danger and all that sort of thing, but still, it's children losing the ability to play outdoors and play freely outdoors is extremely damaging for
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah.
evolving
Oh yeah.
the evolving being.
Yeah.
And what a blessing that your son can grow up, on the land,
Yeah.
surrounded by nature,
Yeah.
eating food. That's what a
Oh yeah.
gift.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, you
No.
couldn't really,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're homeschooling them too, and Chiang
Oh,
Mai is the city, which is a major city in Thailand. It's actually the second largest city to Bangkok, but Bangkok is just like this. Just it's just so called a proton city, where basically the entire population of Thailand is mostly centralized around Bangkok at the greater Bangkok area. But but it is a nice city. It has some Western conveniences. There's an American embassy. I think most of the embassies are in the city. We're like an hour south of it, and but totally in nature. So it's really a nice place to be. But there is an expat community that I never really communicate with. I like just being by myself. And most of the but there is a large homeschooling network, and Thailand's cool because there are less regulations for just a lot of things. I mean, we can build without getting permits, and the school that they
nice.
do allow homeschooling, I think it's a little easier process than maybe some. They kind of try to get you not to, but it's available, and and there's a large group of people, and being and I'm an English teacher. I teach English online. As my source of income is uh, Chinese students. China is where English is in the highest demand for that
Oh,
they pay uh pretty well, that I'm able to support my
oh,
lifestyle
great.
here in Thailand really
Oh,
well.
fabulous.
Yeah, yeah. And then and I've met a couple of my students have come here, and they're I mean, China's an interesting country, man. I mean, it goes on both. There's this one dark part of it, but they're on to something too. That there's part of it's actually wild that they're doing a lot of things right too at the same time. It's amazing. The COVID situation, tell you, terrible. So just heart wrenching. I was teaching online during that time, and uh my that's actually when my teaching skyrocketed. At the same time, there's some um but American and Chinese relations were uh uh distraught a little bit. So the company I was working for a company at that time where they kind of outsourced. It's hard to kind of get through that paywall there, where they were paying me separately and they find the students for me, and but then the government shut down those organizations. They said it was in the name of everybody having an equal opportunity for education, because they've got this intense education system. Again, part of it is a meritocracy, which I agree with, but just the standardized testing, I don't. But at each level, like even I mean, children are taking their like even which elementary school they get into, they're testing into it because they live in these massive cities. So there's so many schools, and there are better schools than others, and they start kind of corralling them early on into their final destination. part of that system is actually effective at letting cream rise to the top. But anyway, back to yeah, during that COVID situation, all the parents were looking for extra. Um, they were learning online, but they realized that wasn't very effective. I mean, their regular schooling was online, and so they were looking for learning online, and they all do want to learn English, which I respect. That's one part of I respect about China. For whatever reasons they want to learn English, is it to use it to take control? I mean, sometimes I joke that I'm teaching spies, or I'm giving English as a language. My students they're lovely students, and they pick up on my speech patterns, and they're developing it. So in some ways, I'm thinking they're able to connect to me. They have deep conversations. They're incredibly intelligent. Again, I'm have maybe a smaller. I'm not. I can't generalize the entire society. I'm speaking to obviously the cream of the crop that are seeking extra education, and they probably are come from financially better off families that are able to afford taking extra lessons and everything. But that all aside, back to originally, I've kind of gone off track. But yeah, during the coronavirus, they were, and most of all my students, it doesn't matter really rich or poor, they're living in high rise apartments. I mean, they're just layered. And these students were, I mean, did not see the light of day for 6 months. They did not go outside for 6 months. Not, I mean, the closest to anything they'd have light with the window and near the window or something. I mean, it was horrible to see that. And I saw some of that. I mean, firsthand that they're just stuck in these, but they were able to like, I don't, they, there were some cases where they'd go crazy and people would like open the windows, yell, some of them jump out and stuff. And but like I don't like they were able to withstand that, but eventually they did that. There were some uprisings, and finally overnight the government was just like, okay, boom, everything. Hey, we fixed everything. Everything, you can go outside now, because they were they had enough basically, and they were able to withstand more than I think a lot of Western cultures were just culturally more defiant, I think, and but at the same time that's the difference is so getting back to this, like they give a little, and then we feel like we're free, and that all they've done was we're in these layered boxes, these layered
Mhm.
cages, and they just let one door open and you're in the bigger one. And what I saw in China was more forced uh cage, but but at some point they completely just boom, okay, you guys are free. They went from just complete like lockdown, way worse than I think any I don't know. Luckily, yeah, it never really affected us here, uh but um but but yeah, I don't know. And yeah, I kind of went on a rant there. Anything that you want to comment on?
It's extraordinary how resilient the human being is. I know people who don't drink water, who never eat any fresh fruit or vegetables, and or people who are, like you just said, locked up for months without any sunlight, and still they manage to, well, stay alive and
Hmm.
stay positive.
Yeah,
It's and the exciting thing about that is who really are we and what are we really capable of? Because I don't think we have much of a clue, like
yeah,
who we are and what's possible, because we have been kept in these limited ideas about ourselves, that we're here to work 9 to 5 and money and get a house and get married and pay off debt and all that sort of stuff. We've been locked down by, well, by governments, but also by you know, these ideas of who we are and why we're here.
hmm,
We've been like fed a whole lot of bullshit. We're talking about boxes, and we're born in a box and live in a box and watch a box and work in a box and drive in a box and die in a box,
yeah,
and what's outside the box. I don't
yeah.
think we haven't really tapped into that yet, and that's I think that's where we're heading and what we're discovering. I know that I'm discovering more things about myself, but ongoingly, really, and it's exciting. And
It is.
I suppose my prayer is that millions of us break out of the box and uh, and live as sovereign beings connected to nature, and co-creating a different world that's much kinder and egalitarian
Hmm.
and works for everyone and isn't about fear and control.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So many times at the same time, yeah, we put ourselves in the box. And
Yeah, right.
and
We do. We put ourselves in the box, and then we've got the enforcers of the box, or the order followers, like
yeah,
the police and all that. And we do um, create our own prisons, whether
yeah,
it's physical or mental, and perpetuate them too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. From resistance to legacy, you said that your healing wasn't just for you. It was for your children, for those still asleep inside control systems, for those too afraid to leave the false comfort of obedience. And you reclaim not just your life, but your compass. And that brings me to something I'm currently exploring in a book I'm writing. It's called How to Live for the Death You Hope to Have. And the premise is
Oh, I love
simple,
that.
but yeah, it's layered, like by honestly imagining the kind of death we want. For me, peaceful, lucid, free of shame and resentment and regret, we can begin living more
Yes.
authentically, like and
Authentically, yeah.
that's what I'm so it kind of it helps me actually live the most grounding way to live in the present is to imagine the ideal death, and then okay, is am I living in accordance with that? And it's not, the objective isn't that I have to achieve that death, but that I'm living an authentic life, and that you know that death, rather than being an ending, it can be a clarifier, a truth serum, a mirror. So Bella, let me ask you in kind of in closing, when the time comes, what do you hope your death reveals about the way you lived, and what would it mean to leave this world unenslaved? And then, yeah, anything else on kind of my theory as I'm developing this, your thoughts
That's
on
so
that?
interesting because I've been thinking a lot about death lately, and I do totally agree that it's important to prepare for death,
Hmm.
because the fear of death is another uh, lie that's been perpetuated to keep us living in fear
Yeah.
and staying small and staying controlled. And well, a fearful person is a controllable person, so that whole fear of death thing's working brilliantly.
Hmm.
And for instance, my partner's mother she's dementia, and she's actively dying at the moment. But their brainwashing is the Roman Catholic brainwashing, and so there's been no discussion of how they want her death to be. She doesn't really know where she is or who she is. And so any discussion of, um, like, I know this is a sensitive topic, but actively ending life, which we do for our pets. My
Uh-huh.
dad was a vet. So, saw many dogs who were old and suffering or injured and suffering put out of their misery. That's what he would say. Yet we don't extend that, usually, you don't extend that grace to other humans. And so that experience has made me think more about my death. And it's going to be the biggest orgasm I've ever had. It's going to be like freedom like I've never known before. And I'm really looking forward to it. I have no fear of it in any day. I just don't want to suffer, of course.
Yeah.
But, even if I do, it's not going to be for long. And I think that it's important to have like a death plan. Like when I had my babies, I had a birth plan. I have a death plan now. If I'm not able to make a conscious decision about my ending my life, then my partner has that permission. I'm going to make sure that he knows that if I'm not conscious, or that please, take the plug out or give me the drugs or whatever. I'll be quite happy to, I'm be extremely happy to leave and grateful to not be kept trapped in a body like that just for what? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm actually looking forward to it. And something that I was practicing the other day, apparently I don't know what it's called. Let's just call it no breath, that state between the in-breath and the out-breath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just practice extending that state.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what death's going to be like, right? Just where there's going to be no breath.
Yeah.
And also then in that process, trusting that whatever happens next will be for my highest good, because that's how I'm trusting that my life's going now. So it's going to be no different when I leave this body. So that whole fear around, oh, it's the false light and you're going to get stuck in the reincarnation cycle, that's, for me, that's bullshit. I know that I'm being guided now, along my journey, so that everything's unfolding for my highest good. And that's going to be exactly the same when I'm ready to leave this body and go on to the next life. And I'm not really interested in what's going to happen next. I just want to be here and now, because I've got eternity to do. These people that do a lot of out of body stuff and,
Mhm.
all that. I have a body now that, it works really well. I want to be as fully embodied as I can for this experience, because I have eternity to be out of body and
Yeah.
exploring out of body. So, going to be here fully embodied and be as human as possible,
Yeah.
until otherwise. And then I'll be happy and grateful to move on. The only thing I think about, sometimes I imagine I imagine like meeting up again with my husband and my son, and
Mhm.
I cry, but I remember that when I'm out of my body, those tears I won't be able to cry, which is it's so sweet. Actually, I really appreciate being able to cry tears like that. So I'm
Yeah.
just
No,
going to
that's
fully milk this human experience
absolutely.
until
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, we are. I mean, I do like to think of ourselves more as spiritual beings in a human experience rather
Yeah,
than being humans trying to, tap into a spiritual experience where our nature is spiritual and this is the human experience. This is for whatever reason. I assume we kind of chose to be here. I mean, there's probably other options. I visualize sometimes like I mean, I don't know how we came into this world, but it seems like we it was probably we decided it, we made a decision, or we wanted to take something away from it. So yeah, we definitely should get as most out of possible. Or if
yeah.
yeah,
Because apparently, the this earthly experience is one of the places where we can evolve uh, more quickly, or
Y-
more
yeah, yeah,
than other non, because it's hard here, right?
mhm,
There's so many paradoxes and challenges, and there is suffering.
mhm,
And suffering is like the gateway to wisdom from my experience. So, it is hard here, but it's also like the place where we can really grow. And I know I'm a spiritual being. I also know that I'm a spiritual being, have a human experience. I'm also a light being having a physical experience.
sure,
And that's
yeah,
something that we could talk about, because we really haven't talked a lot about light.
yeah,
And light is something that's I'm being taught so much about light and the role that it plays in our evolutionary journey. Like, it's
hmm
key.
hmm
And I know that when I leave this body, that'll be my encounter, will be light.
yeah, yeah, that's
And light is love
yeah,
and life.
yeah, yeah, that's yeah, specifically you mentioned sun gazing. I'm obviously not as familiar about that. I mean, I do like to look at the sun. I know at the same time, I remember always being told when you're young, don't look at the sun, you're gonna go blind or something.
Exactly.
Don't look at the
That's
eclipses.
what
So
everyone's
yeah,
told,
you're right. And it's funny,
right?
yeah,
And
when
that's another one of the lies. Like, we mentioned some of them, like fear death. That don't look at the sun because it'll make you go blind is only half of the truth. Because it should be, don't look at the sun when it's directly overhead, or above don't look at the sun when it's a hands above the horizon, unless you've been practicing sun gazing, because you can hurt your eyes. But if you train, just like with anything else, like I can look at the sun when it's directly overhead now for pretty much for as long as I like, and then it's really intense, and I would not advise it unless I've been doing sun gazing now for, like about 8 years, most days.
Mhm.
And honestly, if I'd been doing that, earlier, I'm sure my entire life would be different, because the light is what disintegrates that matrix of enslavement. So it allows it shifts my consciousness, expands my consciousness, so I can see that more of the truth. I can see more of reality. I can see the lies and all that, because I don't know how it works, but it does. That's what's happening as a result of sun gazing, every day. And just on that, if it's not possible to see the sun, then it's receiving any type of natural light into the eyes will uh, uh, do the same as what sunlight does, but just on a less
Yeah,
intense,
like even the moon.
like exactly.
Yeah, and the
So I do
stars.
a lot of moon
Yeah,
gazing and
yeah,
stargazing.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
go
yeah,
out there and I pick a star, like Venus is a morning star at the moment. So go and stargaze at Venus. Also, the light that shines off water, when
okay,
got
yeah,
the sparkly light that comes off water, you can look
yeah,
at that
yeah.
and receive that light. There's also
And the snow,
firelight.
for those in the snow, it actually
Exactly.
may enhance it, that they
Good
get the
one.
reflection of it if uh they can have it all. Yeah.
Yes, I had to write that one down. Thank you for that reminder. And the other one is the light that shines through like a prism. If you've
Oh,
got
okay.
those
Yeah,
crystal
yeah, yeah.
prisms, I hang them in my window and the
Oh,
the
yeah,
rainbow light comes through them, and
yeah,
I'll let that
yeah.
light shine in my
Grew up
eyes.
with those. Yeah, I grew up with those. My mother always
Yeah,
hung those in the window. Yeah,
right. So any type of natural light is going to work. It works magic, really. I don't know
yeah.
exactly how it works, but
I mean,
it's
I
what's
mean,
stimulating our consciousness to break out of the boxes.
yeah. I mean, it's so fundamental. I mean, light. How could anybody argue? Like, how could you? I mean, the burden of proof is not on proving that life is necessary. That's, I mean, and light is necessary for life. I mean, that's the obvious. If I mean, that's the standard. That there's no like, yeah, we don't have to really explain it scientifically. I'm sure we
That's
can.
right.
You can take probably any branch of science and prove that light has a benefit to, you know, that's how science is often, or research is like, it's always about biomarkers. It's like finding a single factor and seeing how one thing can affect that, and it's, I mean, it's the whole, it's just on every level, and it's of course it's necessary. I mean, we
And
have,
it's what,
yeah.
if you're feeling depressed,
Hmm.
then light it's uplifting,
Hmm.
it's energizing. And if I sun gaze in the morning, then my day starts off, brilliantly,
Hmm.
literally.
Hmm.
And so that's the next thing I'm going to be writing about is The Secret of Light, which is already written by Walter Russell, who was an absolute genius. And I've listened to some of his work, and it's way beyond what I can understand. But just basically, need we need light, and the when we're receiving the light through the blue screens, that's very disempowering. It's sickening, and it's
Hmm.
really not helping us
Yeah.
get through this time. Although we can receive, it's all well and good to receive information, but we really need what's most important is light, because light is information. And even if we don't necessarily immediately comprehend it,
Yeah.
at some point that our consciousness and our bodies will have received what it is that is needed for optimizing life.
Yeah, absolutely. Bella, your life is more than a story. It's a diagnostic for the soul of our civilization. You've
Oh
shown us
my
how.
gosh, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Wow, that's so nice of you to say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's uh you've shown us how uh, control can seduce, and how lies are sanctified in ritual, uh on how systems, whether personal or planetary, require obedience to sustain themselves, but you've also shown us something rare, what it takes to leave the altar, bury the false god, and begin again in your barefoot path. There's a blueprint for liberation. Feel the earth, turn towards the sun, let no voice outrank our own breaths. So thank you for helping us see the cult so that we might finally step outside of it. Thank you for this discussion, and yeah, hopefully maybe see you here on the gathering when I host my event, uh, and just continue making those connections. So I appreciate you being here. Like I said, I just having these conversations. It's huge to me. Um, it's funny to be having these conversations as we're using blue light to
I know, I know,
transform
I
it.
know.
It's that's cognitive dissonance there, but it's of course uh I'm sure we're both gonna go get some light right now and
Right.
still walk away from this with I'm just yeah, the light that I get from you is far exceeds the blue light that I might had to have endured.
Oh, thank you, CD. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. And I feel I feel heard and I feel respected, and it's very healing for me to be able to tell my story, and especially to someone who understands and has done work to like see the bigger pictures. So thank you for the holding the space that you do literally on your land, but also by providing this platform for people to come on and talk story. It's really important that we are sharing wisdom because we've all got information that can help each other. And really that's the way forward, is to be supporting one another and staying connected to nature and the rhythms of nature, and receiving light as much as possible, staying connected to the earth. And we're doing it. We are co-creating a new earth. We're breaking free from the old systems of control. And thank you for your role in that. It's important work that you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, to our new earth, to our new earth.
Yeah, right. Hold the vision and anchor the vision.
Excellent.